Hey there friends, what's going on? It's Codiak here, back for another video, and today we are taking you through a challenge tier 15 Scorched lands. This is a live guide walkthrough on my Technomancer, giving you guys unfiltered feedback, reactions, everything that's going on in the video is happening in real time, giving you just a different perspective. There's plenty of build guides out there, so we're giving you a different take on how to tackle challenge tier 15s, giving you some insight into my mind. And hey, if it's something that you guys end up liking, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up and of course subscribe to the channel. But let's not delay any longer and let's take on a challenge tier 15 Scorched lands. All right, guys, here we are at the Scorched land. This is one of the later expeditions, one that you're probably not going to have access to for quite some time if you're still going through the beginning stages of building out an expedition character. I really enjoy this expedition for the most part. I find it to be different than most of the other ones because it's so open. The entire thing is outside. There's a lot more freedom of movement, I guess is the way to put it in this one, and I enjoy that. It's just a slightly different take on everything else that we've experienced in expeditions, and for the most part, it all works. Now, this first section, honestly, I don't find it to be that challenging. Again, I'm playing a Technomancer. I have a lot more mid-range and long-range capabilities than some of the other classes like the Trickster, the Devastator, but we make it work the best that we can, right? So my strategy for this section here is to get myself as close to this gate as possible. I basically rush across the map, kill anything in the way, and this is where I post up for the next couple minutes here as wave after wave after wave of Poforo just come tumbling at us. And as you can see, if you've taken a look at the minimap, you're going to have enemies on the left, you're going to have enemies on the right. You're never going to have enemies behind you in this position, which is why I like it so much. Obviously, the Broodmother eventually comes out, but for now, we just have to worry about the left and the right, keeping our head on a swivel. Now, not even a lot of alphas in this section. It's just a bunch of venomous Poforos and simple Poforos. Eventually, we will get some alphas, we will get some flyers, but for the most part, this is just an exercise in patience. And here's the first flyer. Caught me by surprise. Forgot it came out that quick. So just simply chunk it down. We had Embalmer's Rage up. We were able to chunk it down. And even if you don't, it comes out at a pretty... there's just not much going on. So it's easy enough to take care of. And that's basically the name of the game here, is just mitigating all of the different enemies that are coming at you, dealing with it one problem at a time. Now we're going to have another wave here with some alphas mixed in. Again, because I'm using Embalmer's Rage, my strategy is to go from a little guy to a big guy and constantly bounce back and forth between that to keep Embalmer's Rage up. As soon as there's a flyer out, I want to ground it and take it out of the mix. Again, there's not much going on here, so it's really not that challenging to get them out of the equation. But as you'll see towards the end of, a run in the Scorched lands, it gets really chaotic. And for me, it can go one of two ways. Scorched lands can either end really great or end in complete disaster. So we're just going to keep the faith that things are going to go well and we should be okay. So we're going to still deal with all of these alphas here. This is just unfortunately a long drawn out section. We are getting blindsided just a little bit, letting enemies get behind us. Obviously we never want to do that, but it's really easy to get tunnel visioned in a section like this where you're just constantly going wave after wave with these enemies. But eventually we get to this part here with the Broodmother. And again, the Broodmother is going to come out with other Poforo, and that's what we're going to want to focus on. Killing a Poforo, then switching to the Broodmother, doing damage to her, and you'll see. So we basically have to deal with her for a second, and then we're going to pivot over here to the right side, kill a Poforo, and then we've got Embalmer's Rage. Look at those sweet numbers that we're clocking into her. Hit Cold Snap there, just freeze everything in place so we can focus on her. Finish her up, almost dead, and there she is. And now we basically just need to clean up some little guys, some venomous guys, and then we're on to the next section. And the next section is more or less the same thing. We do have a couple extra elites in the mix. We've got a Crawler in the mix, and we're going to have a second Broodmother in the mix, but for the most part, not too bad. All right, so we're going to hit the gate here, open it up to the next section, and again, pretty much just dealing with a lot of the same. As we get under this pipe, we're going to drop a turret because we know the guys are coming out, get our damage buff, drop a Cold Snap, and basically just line them all up and mow them all down. We've got a lot of alphas here. You want to take them out as soon as possible because if you get bum rushed by 10 alphas, it's just not fun. You guys know that at this point. Alphas have a tendency to be a deadly threat when you least expect it. And that's always how my earlier runs got derailed. was by an alpha charging me, pushing me out of position, and then I just got overwhelmed. So you never want to let the alphas overwhelm you. That jump is a bit intimidating at first, but once you reach this point in the game, hopefully you have a strategy for dealing with them. Mine is always to just use the mods that I have to take them out of the equation as quick as possible. Now we're going to focus on this Broodmother as soon as possible because there is a crawler in the mix here that's coming out very soon. So we basically are using our constant, our strategy of going back to a little guy, going back to the Broodmother, and just ping-ponging back and forth. And she will be a constant threat on the battlefield if you don't get rid of her soon. She's got a big range with that surge ability, so I want to take her out as soon as possible. There are a lot of little guys here that we have to deal with. And then immediately after that, we've got a crawler that we've got to deal with. And you can imagine, a crawler behind you, a Broodmother in front of you. If you don't deal with one of those threats, and the Broodmother is first, so that's why I tend to deal with that threat first, you're going to be in dire straits. Now, I did just run out of blighted rounds here. Luckily, I have a secondary weapon that works for me. If you watched any of our other videos, you know that my funeral pyre is my secondary gun. I love it. I love that Shadow Comet ability. It does enough damage without having to rely on blighted rounds or really anything else that it can be valuable in a pinch like that where I lose blighted rounds. Now, here's where I run into some problems because I've got another Broodmother that just came out into the field. Blighted rounds is still about 10 seconds away from being off cooldown. So what am I going to do? Well, I've got to reload my auto shotgun here. I'm going to use a little bit of that. I'm going to use a little bit of the Embalmer's Rage on the AR and just do my best. Honestly, just stay alive at this point until I get blighted rounds. Oh, this isn't good. They got me cornered. We're going to swing back and just kind of move away. We've got blighted rounds up. We should be able to clean this up. No problem. And again, just stay calm under fire, calm under pressure, and you'll be able to get through that. So that's area 2 out of the way. We're moving on to the final area, and this final area is a bear. And hopefully, again, I said it can go one of two ways. Hopefully it goes all right. I'm going to pick up some ammo really quick just so we have something for the funeral pyre, and then we're in the thick of things. Now, this first section is not too bad. We've got a bunch of maulers here. We do have a behemoth that comes out. I want to deal with that immediately. I'm going to drop cold snap here, freeze it in place. Of course, I'm having some collision issues. Oh, and there we go. Of course, because I'm hitting grass, and apparently grass is a collision issue, we lost our blighted rounds, and that's always going to be a problem in this section. That's probably the number one reason why this section is the... I don't know. I just really hate this section because of all the collision issues with the grass. I don't know why, in God's name, they decided to have collision with the grass, and this entire area is filled with these, like, little offshoots of just brush, and it becomes a huge pain, especially in the last section when they drain the lake here. So we did manage to get through that behemoth, not as clean as I wanted, but we made it happen. So we got a few seconds left before blighted rounds are up. We're going to clean up as much as we can. Again, focusing on the targets that we can kill. These alphas are taking absolutely no damage without blighted rounds. So now we're just going to stop and move backwards, constantly moving backwards, getting closer to the next area of the map, while also just keeping the enemies in front of us, trying to get everybody in one direction. You never want enemies to be behind you and in front of you. If you can help it, you want everything to be in front of you. All right, so now we have a tricky spot here where we got a behemoth and we have 2 crawlers. Now, as you'll notice, I'm staying back, and I'm staying back for a reason. Crawlers move incredibly slow, so I can take out some of these maulers, and then I can focus on the behemoth. And even still, I lost blighted rounds here, but I was able to do enough damage to this behemoth that pretty much out of the mix, right? So now I'm basically going to take my time, clean up these maulers. There's not much I can do with these crawlers being on the other side of the map. Now, I can try and train these maulers back. It's going to take a little bit of effort to do that. Obviously, I still have a majority of my blighted rounds cooldown off. Crawlers are switching directions now, coming after me. This is not ideal. I obviously want to keep a mauler around so I can try and get Embalmer's Rage up. It's not lining up perfectly here. We're going to kill him so that we can at least do a little bit of damage to this crawler here before my blighted rounds is up. It's almost up. And as you can see, I'm just not doing any damage to this thing without blighted rounds. And it's a huge shame because these crawlers, as you guys know, can really pack a punch. And if you're not ready for it, they can hurt. And because we don't have any little guys around us at this point, we're going to lose blighted rounds again, and we're going to have to switch to the shotgun. Now, 2 of them in the mix here doing damage. This is really dangerous. We got to be really careful here. We're going to hit our cold snap. We're going to let our shotgun do the work. Blighted turret did a decent job there. We're going to switch to the AR just to get Embalmer's Rage for a hot second. just try and deal with these guys the best that we can. This is not an ideal situation, but if you look at the timer, we're still well ahead of gold. We're doing okay. It doesn't feel like the perfect run because it's not, but we're still doing okay. All right, so now we are going to move into this next section here. We drain the lake. We've got a behemoth right off the bat that we have to deal with. I'm going to deal with this as quickly as possible. We've got flyers in the mix here. We're going to have brood mothers in the mix here. It gets very complicated very quickly. But the thing that you have to remember, guys, is you can take your time here. If you're ahead of schedule like I am, if you're ahead of that gold timer, you can take your time. And I'm going to just stress that because this can be really troublesome, this entire spot. And it's because of the way that the map is designed. It's because of all of the enemies that you have to deal with. The verticality in this section is really complicated. So I'm going to basically stay up here for the most part, unless I get knocked down for whatever reason. And again, there's some grass collision issues there. Gonna just deal with the guys that are right in front of me. I'm gonna let them come to me. If you put yourself into the lake right away, if you just like bum rush into the lake, you're gonna have everybody coming at you all at once, and it's going to be really bad. Now we've got alphas in the mix, we've got 2 flyers in the mix. We've got to be very, very careful here. You guys know that these flyers are absolutely deadly. I want to get them grounded. I want to get them out of the mix as soon as possible. Hopefully I don't lose blighted rounds. We're very close to losing it. Very close. We're doing okay. So we're going to get rid of this guy. This is the last flyer for right now. We did lose blighted rounds here. And of course I've got to auto load or reload my auto shotgun, I should say. But we're doing all right. Now we've got the second behemoth out, as well as more enemies in the pit here, including a brood mother. I mean, it's just crazy at this point. And if you put yourself in the middle of the pit, they're all going to come at you at once, which is why I suggest you guys stay on the edge of this map. It works really well for me. It may not work for you if you're a trickster, if you're a devastator. It may not be possible. But for me, even if you were playing a trickster or a devastator, you can still use the outside to your advantage. Now, unfortunately, things just lined up here where the behemoth and the broodmother are both at the same spot at the same time. So what are we going to do? We're just going to use the outside ring and just keep moving back. Because the way that the enemy AI works, they're going to move at different paces. They're going to approach me at different paces. They're going to constantly be moving towards me, but they're going to be moving at different paces. So I'm trying to get Embalmer's Rage back up so we can at least thin out the herd here and focus on one of these elites. I'm going to focus on the behemoth first, because behemoths I find are just more deadly, easier to kill, and boom, out of the mix. We're in a good spot. Now, I did fall off here, which sucks, but at this point, it's okay because there aren't that many enemies left. If you are down here, you have to be very careful with all of this grass around. You will have some collision issues, so just be aware of that. Try and get yourself out of this pit. This pit is a kill zone. You do not want to be down here. You're going to take a lot of damage. You're going to have a lot of heat on you from enemies, but hopefully, we can get this one down. We can focus on the very last section of the run here. Now, it feels like that should be the end, right? But no, we have one more little round of enemies that we have to kill. It does include another broodmother. Honestly, this part's not that bad. It's funny, sometimes the bosses aren't the end bosses aren't the biggest challenge in these expeditions. So at this point, we're basically going to ping pong back and forth using our patented technique of keeping Embalmer's Rage up, then focusing on the elite enemies like Alpha Paphoros or Behemoths or whatever's out here. We're going to focus on these guys. Just chip away at them. There's really no point. We know that the end game here is one broodmother, and that's not that bad. So we're going to just chip away at as many guys as we can. The broodmother worked her way up here, which is great. We're just going to chip away, chip away, chip away. We do have some little guys behind us. They're not very close. That's the only problem. So we're going to have to go run to get them, just to try and keep Embalmer's Rage up, try and get some ammo. And that's the last little guy there. So we're going to run out of blighted rounds here, and we're just going to finish her off whatever way we have to. Again, broodmother's not that deadly. For the most part, you can't handle them however you want to, especially if they're alone. She's going to knock me around a little bit. That's fine. That's fine. She's pissed off. I get it. We got the auto shotgun out. We're just going to finish her up. Cold Snap does nothing. It's fine. And boom, just like that, well ahead of the timer, we get a gold on the Scorched Lands. I think a lot of people will tell you that this expedition in particular is not that challenging, and I would tend to agree. It's a fun expedition. It's just a slightly different change of pace because you're outside the whole time. It's a bigger area for the most part. It's just a little bit different. It feels a little bit different. But there you go. That's how you do that at a challenge tier 15 solo as a techno. Again, a lot of the strategies transfer over to other classes. It's all about keeping your head on a swivel and not panicking when you're under pressure. And there we go. We got a legendary there, so that is always nice. And that's all she wrote. Anyways, guys, if you have any questions about the Scorched Lands, or you just want to follow along as we do more of these videos, like, subscribe to the channel, of course, leave your comments in the section below, join us on Discord, all of that great stuff, and we'll see you for the next one. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.